We are live. Hello, everyone. Super exciting Saturday morning. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Joey, who's a very good friend of mine. He's also a yogi, he's a Jyotish, he's an expert in Yoga Nidra, he's an Ayurveda lifestyle coach. So, there are so many adjectives or so many, I don't want to say labels, but there's so many ways I can, describe you and another fellow kapha person, which is always good, right? So pretty happy-go-lucky, fun-loving Joey. So and a really great musician too. So that's a unique combination. So it's amazing to have you here. I can see a few people have signed in from YouTube. So hello, Ushaji. Hi, Uttamji. Yeah, we have a few people on YouTube, so that's pretty fantastic. And today we're talking about Yoga Nidra. So this is really exciting. So I'll start by asking what exactly is Yoga Nidra and how did you find it?
Right. Well, thank you. First off, Dr. Manjari Nadkarni, thank you so much for inviting me. After such glowing praise, I could easily turn it around and focus it on you. I mean, we've been friends for a while now, and yeah. I really appreciate you and all you're doing on social media and having these talks. They're very, very great. And particularly, in times like this where we are in a pandemic situation, it's important for people to find ways to care for their health, to improve their overall immune response, and take matters into their own hands, so to speak. And so we're here to talk about some of the different tools. In particular, we're going to talk about Yoga Nidra today. Mm-hmm. And Yoga Nidra is such an amazing tool for people who don't know much about it. Like, my background, I've been teaching primarily to people who may not know what Yoga Nidra is and bringing it to them and then seeing the health benefits and experiencing what it does. So to answer your question, Patanjali, he's the sage who, wrote the Yoga Sutras. He talks a lot about yoga, the science and philosophy of consciousness. And in the second sutra of the Yoga Sutras, he says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. My Sanskrit is not the best, but bear with me. Yoga is the cessation of alternating waves of consciousness, is probably the closest approximation that I know of in the English language. So we have these fluctuating, we have thoughts, we have emotions, and everything sort of disturbing that pot of water. And if you put in that reflection against the pot, you see that if the water is agitated, you don't see that essence. Mm-hmm. And so yoga really is uniting our limited consciousness to that primordial awareness that is beyond thought, that is beyond emotion. And there are many different tools and techniques to do that. Now, Yoga Nidra, there are certain references, for example, in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, some of the Puranas, they sort of mention, but nothing is really sort of laid out. This is the technique. Mm-hmm. And there's a good reason for that, because Yoga Nidra is not a technique. It's a state of being, right? Mm-hmm. So Nidra is that it's been interpreted as sleep or translated as sleep, but it's beyond that. I would coin it as having an expanded state of awareness while in a sublime state of relaxation. And the way one does this is through progressive relaxation techniques, going through their body, scanning, observing, and relaxing and letting go, and keeping that mind awake and aware so that their body is in a restful, sleeping state, almost, not quite asleep. We'll talk about that more, but their mind is fully alert, awake, and aware. And so through that lucid state, they're able to consciously experience that restful state and enjoy the benefits therein. So hopefully that answers your question of what yoga is.
That's a really, it is a good answer, that it's about uniting with your own self, and then this is something that takes it even further, and how different, like one of the most common question that, we get asked is, how different is Yoga Nidra from meditation? Because meditation is something everybody tries, most people fail to do it or struggle with it. So can Yoga Nidra, so it's actually two questions. Can Yoga Nidra be beneficial to people who struggle with meditation? And how different is it from meditation?
Yes, so there's different ways that you can unpack that answer. And I could go the easy route and say that Yoga Nidra is actually a meditation technique, but I think that would be too simplistic. Yoga Nidra is, first off, one of the differences is, typically when we're doing meditation, we are seated in a type of asana. There may be a technique such as a mantra or a form of pranayama, or like methods like vipassana, where you're just having that passive state of awareness. Yoga Nidra is a little bit different because, first off, the person's lying. Typically, we advise them to lie on, in Shavasana, in corpse pose, and on a yoga mat on the floor, or potentially on a bed. We don't want to go too comfortable because that sort of promotes, your brain starts thinking, oh, I'm going to sleep, and so you get into that. You want to try to create a separate type of environment, but you want to be as comfortable as possible. And then secondly, you are using rotational awareness to go through the body and relax, and let go and become aware of the tension, let it go. And then thirdly, there is an aspect of sankalpa, or intention, that you are putting into yoga. So Yoga Nidra. So there's a fine, subtle distinction to be made between the two techniques, because you're not necessarily using that mantra, or you're listening. Typically, Yoga Nidra is a guided meditation experience. When a person becomes very skilled, they can do it on their own. But in the beginning, it's always very guided, and you're using that rotational awareness and going deeper and deeper into states of relaxation.
Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. I'm just going to say a quick hi. We have Hera here, we have Mukta, we have Vimarsha, we also have Isha, and we also have Vibha. So we have quite a few. You have quite a few fans following. That's amazing.
It's a joy to have everyone here. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, so my own experience, I just wanted to share this, and I was sharing this with you before we started, that, we're almost into the Ganesha festival, like I think 2 weeks before that. So during Ganesh festival, we do repetitions of Atharva Shirsha. So in my college, when I first started, studying Ayurveda in the college itself, the first year, we were doing 21 repetitions of, this Ganesh Atharva Shirsha. And I had consciously never heard it. So my prayer room was exactly next to my bedroom, and my mom would chant all the time. And subconsciously, even without realizing, by the third repetition, I knew it by heart. And it's like there are so many prayers that, Devi Sukta or certain things that I used to sleep. That's all I would do, right? Maybe my consciousness was active at the time. And I can hear it twice, and by third time I know it, just because my mom would repeat it so often, right? So that's important. And then there are stories in Mahabharata where Krishna was teaching Draupadi, and Abhimanyu heard how to enter the battlefield and all that. So what are your thoughts about it, like the subconscious mind, or how does Yoga Nidra affect it?
Well, okay, so I want to then sidestep. I mean, this is a really good question, but I'd like to sidestep to sort of explain what's happening on a scientific level, because there's been a number of studies that have they've attached subjects to EEG equipment and monitored what happens. And typically when we're in a conscious wakeful state, our brain is operating in beta wave mode, right? And when we go into meditation, typically those waves subside and we go into that alpha state. And then we're crossing over into the theta state, and then we go deeper into the delta state. Okay, so what happens typically when we are meditating, our brain is starting to slow down, and different areas of the brain are becoming more stimulated, and we're going into that alpha wave state. So with Yoga Nidra, typically what research has found is that we are actually going further into that alpha wave and almost crossing, or in some cases we are crossing over into that theta state, where we are mimicking, for all intents and purposes, a restful state, but we're still awake and aware. Typically what happens is that, when we are practicing yoga nidra, it's like with everything, it requires continual effort and practice. And, sometimes we go into what is called sleepitation, where we're walking that fine razor's edge between wakefulness and sleepfulness. And, sometimes we fall one side or the other, and that's fine. With yoga, we talk in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna talks a great deal about renouncing the efforts of our actions, and not making yoga too goal oriented. And it's the same with yoga nidra. We want to maintain that passive state of awareness. We still, well, actually, it's like a fine line between passive and active. So that's the key point. So basically what is happening, though, is that we are enjoying the benefits of that theta state, or sort of the deeper realm of the alpha state. And we're still awake and aware. We can still enjoy that peace that comes from that restfulness, but we're doing it consciously. So that is one of the main benefits of doing yoga nidra. And then, of course, there's a whole side slew of benefits, health benefits. And we can talk a little bit more about those. So I don't know if that answers your question.
That's a good question, and I mean that's a good answer to the question.
Right.
What about health benefits? Because that's what my next question was about. That who should be doing it? Like, we often recommend it to people, and everybody wants to try it. But are there certain people that you're like, okay, just do it? Like this is the one thing that's going to really help you. So when would you strongly suggest a person to do it, and what are the general health benefits that one can see?
So the answer is yoga nidra is something that everyone can do. It's relatively safe. Sometimes certain yogic techniques, certain forceful pranayams and that kind of thing, they may be difficult for certain constitution, or with even certain health problems. We wouldn't necessarily advise that. However, that's not the case with yoga nidra. Yoga nidra, my teacher, whom I studied with, Dr. Marc Halpern at the California College of Ayurveda, and then his wife, Andrea Deerhart, she actually works as a death doula, and she helps people to cross over, at the end of their lives, at the last part of transition, and she uses yoga nidra as a technique to prepare them for that crossing over. There is a whole slew of you couldn't necessarily pinpoint. So astrologically, typically what I do is we look at the manas of the person. In Ayurveda, we have manas prakriti, but typically someone who is very rajasic, who has a lot of that type of energy, we will, to put them more into a sattvic state, we'll reel them back a little bit. Typically, people that are heavily tamasic, they may enjoy yoga nidra, but they may they may fall too over into the tamasic state. We need to stimulate them a little bit more. But from a Jyotish perspective, we're looking at the manas of the person, which is reflected by the archetypal qualities of the moon. If there are any negative implications to the moon or to the fourth house, which is the bhavakaraka of our consciousness, of our heart, I've found that people that have anger, irritability, depression, stress, trauma, anything like that, and I mean the science supports it. I'll post a blog article citing some of the research in the different areas, but yoga nidra decreases stress levels, and so automatically thereby you're going to improve your immune response, right? So when people aren't stressed out, they're not getting sick as much, and that's pretty much a known fact. and it increases the dopamine production, and that has a slew because you're altering your brain chemistry at that point positively, and it increases the blood flow to the brain. It stabilizes your blood glucose levels, so it has a positive effect on diabetes. Anything related to PTSD or any type of traumatic stress. It regulates menstrual cycles for females. It reduces a person's pain levels. Like it increases their tolerance because they're more into that passive state of awareness. I could probably go on and on and on, but those are, so basically anyone can benefit from Yoga Nidra, but it is particularly helpful for people who do have any types of those issues.
Okay. And here's where I'm just going to point out a few things, because I had a consultation with someone who's eating really healthy, but the blood sugar is totally out of control, because you're not managing the stress and you're not managing the subconscious patterns that keep repeating and creating all that stress, So even though your diet is perfect and you're under a lot of stress, you can go for Yoga Nidra. And this is something, if you implement it, it's a tool in your toolkit that's going to really help you. PTSD, because Yoga Nidra works to release a lot of sanskaras, So that's definitely going to benefit. So if you're somebody who's had a history of trauma or who are stuck into the same patterns, things keep repeating over and over again. That's the one thing. And the beauty of it is you're just learning to release and let go, So for also most kaphas, who find it really hard to let go, like I struggle with letting go of things. I think it's the kapha nature of attachment, So for those people, it's going to be really beneficial. We have a comment here. So Isha saying that Joey's Yoga Nidra session is amazing. So for all those, listening to this, it is pretty amazing that we have his sessions available on his shop. So you can either get a CD, you can also download it, and you can benefit. So you don't have to always, with COVID, things are opening up and you need more support. So you can definitely, in the comfort of your own home, you can download the CD. I know he's offered quite a few free sessions before on YouTube as well during COVID. You were really active supporting the community. So feel free, I'm sharing the links here, and just feel free to go and download, those audios and purchase those, and you can have them forever and keep working with it. So that was a really, nice introduction and the benefits. So what's the process of Yoga Nidra like for somebody who hasn't experienced it or who's a little, curious about, okay, is it going to work with me? I can't sit still or I can't, stay still. So for people who have these questions, what's the process like?
Yes, so that's a good question. And first off, thank you for promoting my recording. It's great to be able to make this available, and especially to expose people who may not have otherwise been exposed. Yeah. I think it's important because yoga has increased popularity in the West, and Yoga Nidra has been sort of pulled along for the ride, but still people are not 100% sure about it. So the primary process is that, as I mentioned earlier, the person lies in Shavasana, in corpse pose, and they make sure that they're comfortable though, because the thing is the process, at least the method that I teach, Yoga Nidra, is, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to complete the whole session. Mm-hmm. And so they need to make sure that, they have proper support, through the neck, legs, so you don't want to have any lower back pain. You don't want to take anything that's going to potentially pull you out. You want to achieve that state of pratyahara, of interiorization. So you want to make your body as comfortable as possible, not too comfortable, but enough comfortable. And then, you can do a couple things. You can take a few deep breaths to begin, connect with your breath, and then you just let go. And then you listen to the facilitator's guidance and allow them. Of course, this is not hypnosis because you're not necessarily surrendering your your willpower as much. You are just listening and allowing them to guide you, and then you're in the driver's seat. So it's important to note that as well. And you're just basically scanning the different areas of the body in succession for any areas of holding, control, or tension. just scanning with your mind's eye, and then you're releasing. And again, in my recording, there's a few key repetitions, because I find repetitions are really, really important to drive home, to stay awake and aware, and letting go, letting go, letting go. And you have to do it, for the person delivering the Yoga Nidra class, they have to do it in a way that promotes that relaxation. And then, eventually they'll get to that state of Yoga Nidra, that supreme state of interiorization, of deep relaxation, where their mind is awake and aware. And then from there, they can become more aware of what's happening on a subtle level of their body. And typically, we talked about emotions and kapha. When we start working around the heart area, there may be releases. I've had situations in sessions where, people may, they may start crying, or there may even be like twitching that wasn't there before. Like there may be just some energy, some prana that's going through the body that, there's been a blockage. And because the prana, they're more aware of the prana and something is happening. And these things are normal, these things are quite fine. But of course, if anyone is doing the recording and they don't actually have the value of being in a guided session, and they have any questions, of course, they can reach me through my website, through social media. I'm there to answer any questions that they might have, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Yeah, so I was going to ask, the listeners, I can see more people join in. Sanika's here as well. Hi, Sanika. So if you have any questions for Joey, if you have any questions about Yoga Nidra, if you've tried it yourself before, you can always give your feedback as to what your experience was. So that just helps more people encourage it. And if you have any questions, you can post it in the comment section, and I'm sure Joey will be happy to answer all the questions that, you have. Okay, so I'm just looking at the comments. And Joey, what's your personal experience about Yoga Nidra? I know you're teaching it, but in your own practice, how has it changed you, or how has it shifted certain pieces of, your consciousness?
Well, the thing is that when you're practicing Yoga Nidra regularly, and you have some kind of routine, dinacharya, centered around meditation or mantra or that kind of thing. The first thing is that these are tools that continually, like pranayama or anything, they help you move in that right direction of sattva guna. And for me personally, when I'm doing Yoga Nidra regularly, when I sit to meditate or do mantra, I'm already there. Because you're promoting that state. You're already in that relaxed. And I have to say, I'm touching wood, but it has improved my immunity as well. Honestly. This is anecdotal, of course, but I don't remember the last time that I did get ill, at least not due to stress. So those two things, absolutely. And also the thing is, the little the little dirty secret about teaching Yoga Nidra is that, especially if you are someone who is emotionally empathic towards others, is that when you're observing other people going into that deep state, you're kind of taking in some of that vibration yourself, and it makes you more peaceful too. So like all of these, beautiful therapies that, we have in Ayurveda, whether it's Marma Chikitsa or whether it's Shirodhara, or these things, it's very peaceful just to watch other people doing it, So health benefits, mental benefits. I feel like, things happen. We're in a pandemic. They're closing stuff down, and we're looking, and not much you can do about it. So you could just kind of laugh and just take that state of the observer and just try to live your life as best as you can.
Yeah. So I have one more question before we get to the comments and the questions from our viewers. So can you talk a little bit about immunity, because you mentioned immunity, so how can Yoga Nidra benefit someone's immunity or help boost or maintain someone's immunity. So is there any research behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this goes back to the conversation we had on Yoga Nidra and the positive impacts it has on stress levels. When you're in that deep state of alpha or even the theta state, your body just reacts differently, and it increases the dopamine production, thereby subtly altering your brain chemistry. And so everything is related. So when we talk in Ayurveda about ojas and the different levels of agni, and particularly sadak pitta, which is connected to the mind and the heart, there's that symbiotic relationship between the two. If one is affected, the other is affected. They're one in Ayurveda. So all of these things are, from a holistic perspective, are all interconnected. We're not necessarily looking at the physical body or the mental body, or even the causal body. We're not looking them as separate systems. They're all interlinked and connected. And so when you're making that effort, you're subtly connecting all of those dots together, and you're bringing them into the state that they need to be. Our natural state is not to be in constant fight or flight. So we need to find tools to sort of bring us back and center us and ground us. So yeah, I mean, that's really in a nutshell how it works.
Okay, so we have some amazing, questions here. So I'm gonna take the questions. And so
Great.
the first question we have is from Vimarsha. She's asking, is practicing Shavasana and Yoga Nidra similar? I know you've answered that question, but if you could clarify once again.
Well, yes. I mean, in some respects, yes, they are. I mean, the number one, you're lying in a what is it? It's a supine pose where you're just lying flat on the ground. Shavasana, there are different techniques of connecting to the breath. Now, I am not a yoga hatha yoga instructor or anything, so I can't necessarily comment about that. But the thing is that with Yoga Nidra, you are really using the laser focus of the attention and projecting it, and that is like repeated. Whereas repeated throughout the whole practice, as opposed to Shavasana, where typically it is done, either at the beginning or the end of a hatha yoga practice, and you're just letting the body kind of cool down after, a lot of movement or energy. So that would be the key, in my mind, the key distinguishing factor between the two. But that's a really good question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thanks. I hope that answers your question. So we have another question from Uttam G. So he's asking, could you please describe the process of going over your organs gradually, one by one, and cleansing them?
Yeah, so there are different ways of doing that, but not my experience is that not everyone understands the anatomy or physiology of the body quite that, not everyone is has that academic background. And so what you need to do is, when you're doing Yoga Nidra, you do want to focus on certain areas of the body that have vital organs, but you don't want to say, now focus on your liver, now focus on your spleen, now focus on, your kidneys or anything like that, because, some people may not necessarily be able to connect. So you need to use language that is inclusive of everybody. And so generally what I do in my practice is I will say, okay, let's focus on the lower abdomen and observe if there's any tension in the body. Now go one level deeper and just observe, is there anything happening, from an energetic disturbance? Like sometimes people just don't feel well down there, or they may not even be aware. That's the thing too. In Ayurveda, we bring attention to the fact that they may be, they might not be experiencing something, because, we live in this state of like doing, and we're not creating that living awareness with our body. And so Yoga Nidra is doing that. And thereby it's inclusive, because if I'm saying lower abdomen, I'm including the reproductive organs, I'm including the lower digestive tract and elimination, all of those things are, and the muscles that are all connected there. So that would be how I would approach the organs. I mean, certainly if you know where your liver is, you can put your awareness on your liver, and that's fine. There's no, the liver, how do you relax the liver? It's like,
Yeah.
but when I say, notice if there's any type of pranic disturbance, or if you're feeling, and you're connecting to that level of more energetic, then that becomes an easier conversation and a little bit more relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a good one. And yeah, you can't always pinpoint to the organs and feel them relax, or you can take your consciousness there for sure, but you can't always pinpoint, because then you'll have to find each and every tiny one, including your appendix.
That's right.
So Sanika is asking, so Sanika, one thing for you, you should try this. Like seriously, you should try this. I have shared the link for the store, so you can download the CD, you can download the MP3. She's asking us what's the best time to practice Yoga Nidra. Should it be before regular exercise sessions or at the end of the day?
Well, the whole science and philosophy of Ayurveda is that we need to look at the person's constitution. We need to look at the cycles of the day as part of the dinacharya practices, and establish what is best. Now, generally speaking, if a person is suffering from insomnia, I would suggest they do it before sleep. Or if a person has a very hectic and stressful lifestyle, I would recommend doing it, upon waking in the morning. Before or after exercise, it really depends on what works better for the person. I would encourage them to experiment. Astrologically, the sun rises in the east and goes overhead, and to the median point midday, and then it sets. Typically, I found beneficially when the sun passes through the 8th house, which is it depends on the time of the year, but sort of in the hours leading up, but not directly in sunset. This is a very auspicious, 8th house is very auspicious for yogic practices. So if a person's connecting to the sort of that vibe, that's beneficial for them. But again, that's more of an astrological discussion. So you really have to look at the person, their lifestyle, and where you think it will maximize result. But the short, quick, and easy answer, putting all that aside, is that there's really no bad time to practice it.
Yeah. And just making it a routine, that's what I was going to tell her, that, or anybody else listening, like if you do it at night, like do it every night, or because we tend to forget, when we do it in the morning, or if you build it into your routine, whether it's in the morning time when you just wake up or at night, but consistency is kind of the key when it comes to yoga, because you're going inwards, it's not like you eat it once and then you forget. Like we have to eat every single day and nourish ourselves, right? So even this is a nourishing practice where every single day, if you do it, then you see the benefits. You can't, do it once and leave it.
There's one more point I just wanted to add, and it's this little anecdote, about building routine. Sometimes it's very difficult. We get very hectic lifestyles, and especially as, COVID, we're now sort of getting back into recovery mode, and the economy is picking up a little bit. People are going back to work, kids going to school in the fall, hopefully. It becomes very easy to sort of say, well, I don't really have time to dedicate, that time, every day. There's a cute story about the Buddha, and somebody said, how long should I be meditating? And he, the Buddha said, you should be meditating at least 20 minutes a day. And the person looked at the Buddha and said, I can't do that. I don't have time for it. I'm too busy. My lifestyle is too hectic, and I can't set aside 20 minutes a day. Buddha said, I understand. In your case, I would recommend 45 minutes a day. So.
That's a good story. So then we have Vibha, who's saying that just listening to Joey is so peaceful, So when I get stressed, I call Joey. That's how I get really peaceful.
Thank you.
And does he offer FB sessions? So do you offer any Facebook sessions for Yoga Nidra anymore? I know you were doing quite a few during COVID.
Yes, so I was doing online. I'm taking a little bit of break for the rest of the summer. I will be starting the online sessions. So I have, I'm affiliated with a group of practitioners in Burlington, and we do have a physical space. Although right now, we're only able, just due to the physical constraints of the building, we're only able to offer one-on-one sessions. And if that's something that interests you and you have the ability to travel to Burlington, then feel free to contact me. But I will be doing online sessions kicking up in September as part of the offerings of our community, and there'll be more details forthcoming on that.
And Vibha, because I know she lives in the States, so I think, the best thing is just download a recording. You can carry it, you can travel, because with me, I think, that's the beauty of having meditation on your phone, is that when you travel, or if you are busy, you can just go to that place where you need it. Sometimes I will start a meditation in between clients in the afternoon, and if I have that 15 minutes, I need to reset. That's when I'm like, okay, because I can go. That's my kapha nature. So just download the recording. You can have it for yourself, and I'll make sure I post the links in the Facebook group as well when he starts offering those sessions. I can do that 100%. So Isha is saying that she normally does Yoga Nidra on empty stomach or on almost empty stomach. Is it okay to have food in your stomach though when you practice Yoga Nidra?
Yeah, my opinion, and again, this is I will say it's more of an opinion. It's not necessarily based on anything related to the teaching itself. When if I've eaten a 5-course dinner and I do Yoga Nidra, a lot of my energy unconsciously is moving towards the digestive organs to do a lot of the work, and so thereby the result typically produced is more tamas. Okay. That said, I would recommend that, if a person does eat, they don't overeat. That would be fine. Or, of course, it's preferable to do it on an empty stomach. The most important thing, and I remind this to everybody in front, at the beginning of my Yoga Nidra, is you have to empty your bladder. You have to go to the washroom, even if you don't feel like you have to, because you're going to be lying still for the next, 45 minutes to an hour. You don't want to think, I have to pee. And your attention is going to the bladder and to that stress. We don't want that in Yoga Nidra. So again, I would say common sense prevails. And that would be my answer.
So Shane is asking, is Yoga Nidra helpful in psychosomatic disorders?
Yes. I mean, we sort of alluded to that earlier. Psychosomatic, as I understand, is, any disorders related to the mind connecting to the body. And so, like we talked a little bit earlier, we alluded to Sadak Pitta and that relationship between the brain and the heart. These are said to be the heart is said to be the seat of consciousness of the body in yogic practices, but it's still connected to the head, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we are practicing Yoga Nidra, or any yogic technique for that matter, you are definitely positively influencing that relationship, and kind of bringing the both in balance. I see that astrologically as well. When you look at a person's chart and you see there's a heavy moon affliction or there's a 4th house affliction, those are the ones that I have found typically fare, the results sort of go above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
No. Okay, so perfect. Yes, Shane. So the answer is yes, and most definitely. I mean, if you have something psychosomatic, you should be taking the time for yourself. And the other thing about that is, in today's world, most things are psychosomatic. Like I hardly ever see a condition which is only related to the body doshas or only, the mind. Everything is like deeply connected. So it's not just physical. It's always, there's a mental, emotional component to it. And the same with mental health, there's definitely a body component to it. Sanika saying, thank you for answering. Yes, she'll definitely connect on this. Thank you, Joey. That's what she's saying. Lalita saying, good morning to both of you. Good morning, Lalita. Thank you for tuning in. She's in LA, so she's watching from LA. So that's
Wow.
fantastic. And then I think it's Isha or Vibha who's saying, thank you once again. Yeah, thanks to Manjari and Joy. Oh, you're most welcome. So again, Joy, what kind of services do you provide? I don't see any more questions, so we'll get into it. I know you're a really good Jyotish and you're an Ayurvedic life coach. So can you talk a little bit about your courses and how people can connect with you?
Yeah, the thing is that so number one, I've always approached the Vedic body of knowledge and sciences from the lens of someone who did not necessarily live or grow up with them. Although I was immersed, as soon as I discovered them, I was like, why didn't I know this my whole life? And so what I do typically, my consultations will include aspects of teaching as well. Like it's just something that I can't really get away from. And so people who have never had Jyotish readings before or understand. And again, I don't necessarily look at myself as a fortune teller. It's more of fortune mending is what I do, where we look at a problem a person comes similar to Ayurveda. A person has some type of health condition. They're usually not coming to you when they're healthy. They say, I have a problem with relationships, or I have a problem with work. And then we look and we try to establish the negative things that we see. And then we try to see what positive things can we turn it around, what upayas or, positive things, whether it's, giving back to society or doing certain mantras or even things like Yoga Nidra. They're very helpful. So that is kind of my background. And I should say that I'm always studying. Like I feel like I'm just a babe, floating on an ocean of, infinite space and learning, and I'll probably be learning until my dying breath. So that's number one, the Jyotish, and then number two, Yoga Nidra definitely goes hand in hand with that. I also do some, I would call it life coaching, health coaching based on the principles of Ayurveda. Mm-hmm. Just to make sure that, the person's lifestyle, their habits, their daily routines are consistent with their prakriti, and keeping in mind their vikriti. So bringing them into balance. So those are sort of the main services that I offer. But, of course, if you're interested, you can always look at my website. I'm always updating it, throwing more stuff on there. So, and as I continue to study, just more and more stuff will be added.
Yeah, so Vibha's saying that Vedic astrology is on her next bucket list, and she'll for sure contact Joey to learn. Yeah, so Vibha, a good starting point is getting your own chart done, because when I started understanding my own chart, you understand certain patterns you've been carrying for a long time, and it really creates a lot more awareness. So every action that you take, you're empowered. You're not taking an action from an autopilot where that's just your response and that's how it's been. You can actually shift and change the pattern. So for everyone, and I've posted the links to his website right here. There's also the links to the shop where you can buy the recording for Yoga Nidra. So everything is in the comment section. You can also reach out to him on Facebook or through his website. So there are different ways to definitely connect with him. And yeah, he's really good for stress levels.
Thank you.
Lowering your stress, be it via Yoga Nidra. And that's the beauty of a kapha person, the kapha voice is supposed to be really soothing and calming down. And so that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Joey. It was truly a pleasure to have you here, and truly an honor as well. Like, we've known each other for a long time, and I've always wanted to interview you. So this is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. And the pleasure really is all, and the honor is really all mine. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in this morning, or everyone who has yet to tune in, but will do so later through YouTube or through the videos posted.
Yeah,
so thank you so much.
And everyone, if you watch the replay, just put a hashtag replay so we know you're watching, and always, post comments, you can ask any questions and we'll make sure we get back to you on those as well. So thanks everyone once again. Have a fantastic Saturday. I'll try to switch off all the social media and all. I have one interview to record for myself today and then I'm all good for the weekend. Perfect. Thank you so much for watching live and have a fantastic weekend, everyone.
Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
Ravi.